Hello, my name is Yao Hua and I'm a journalist based in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. In this video, I'm going to show you a platform that tells you when and where forest reserves in Peninsular Malaysia were added or removed. It is easy to use and it is free, and I'm calling it Fate of Our Forest. On this platform, with just a few clicks, you can get updated information on the changes that state governments make to forest reserves. That includes information on which forest reserves were affected, what were the changes that were made, the sizes of the areas that were added or removed, when it was made, and also where it was made. And I'm using quotations on where because the exact locations of the changes, it's quite complicated, but we'll talk about that more later in the video. Also, the platform is free for everyone to use, but it is not free to make. So I've been paying for the platform, to get the information and the data sets out of my own pocket. Now, if you find it useful, and I hope you find it very useful, I hope you are inspired or encouraged to support me. And there are several ways in which you can support me. And of course, I don't want to make a profit of this project. It is a project of passion, really. But I also don't want to lose money making this project. But first, let me bring you straight to the platform. Let's have a look at the platform. So here we are on the platform, Fate of Our Forest, as I've said. And I update it regularly. The last time I've updated was just 2 days ago on 21st June 2026. And on the right here side, we are now looking at it on a desktop. Of course, on a mobile screen, it will be a lot more vertical, but it's just more or less the same layout. So on the landing page on the right here, there are some very important reminders, caveats about the data. But I will tell you about them as we explore the platform together today. So first off the start, there are two main sets of information that you can get on Fate of Our Forest. The first is the changes that have been made to the forest reserves. And for that, you can just scroll down to look for the recent changes, or you can click on here and look for recent changes. So here I've made it all in a table form, and you can filter the table. So for location, it shows here, for the whole of Peninsular Malaysia, the last 2 months before the last updated date, which should be June 21st, right? So if you can see here in this table, it shows you the changes, which forest reserve was changed, what was changed. It added 0.2 hectares, and it was made in the state of Pahang, in the district of Jalai, and this is the number of the Gazette. I'll tell you what Gazette is in a moment, and this is the date of the change. You can of course go for 6 months before, and you get a longer table, and then you can do 12 months before, so a full year before the last updated date. And if you want to get this entire table, you can just click on this download table button here, and then save it, and then you can open it, and then it will show up like that. It's in a CSV form, then you can work on it as you like. So that's recent changes. And you can see in the top here, there is a navigation bar. If you want to see all the changes, you just need to click on All Changes table here, and it brings you to a slightly more sophisticated table where you can then filter it again by reserves, by state, etc. And you can again download the table that you have filtered here, or you can download the entire data set, which again will be in a CSV, but you then get all the changes that I have compiled, and they start from 1st January 2002 up till the last updated date. As you can see, we have about 950 records in the data set. So I've also provided a different way to look at the changes that were made to forest reserves in Peninsular Malaysia, and that is looking at it through maps. So if you go to all changes map at the top here, we clicked on it, and here is, you see a map, and it shows the entire peninsula, or the net change in forest reserve since 1st January to 2002 to June 21st, and it's a net reduction in forest reserves. But and it shows you, I've just visualized the data here, a chart that shows you the changes every year, the top 10, the 10 most recent changes here, right? And then the top 5 biggest additions in our data set, so since 2002, and then the top 5 biggest removals. And of course, this will change, as we update the data set, as new changes come on board. And if you click on, say, like a state, if you click on Kelantan here, then you can zoom in, and these are all forest reserves in pink and in gray and in blue. So in pink means that the forest reserve has a net reduction over the years. Gray means there was a net zero change, and in blue means there was a net increase. So you can see in Kelantan, there was a overall net change of 25,000 hectares, and the top 10 recent changes, and then the top 10 biggest additions for Kelantan, and for and the biggest removals, right? So you can just click on one of it, for example, Gunung Bakso, and then it shows you just the data for that forest reserves. You can also search for it. If you say you want to search for Gunung Stong, then you can find Gunung Stong, and then it will center the map on Gunung Stong, highlight it, and then show you the data for Gunung Stong Selatan in this case. Okay, so that is the first set of information that you can get from Fate of Forest, and that is the changes to the forest reserves in table, and then you can also explore it on a map and in charts. Now let's look at the second set of information that you can get from Fate of our Forest. The second set of information that you can get from Fate of our Forest would be maps of forest reserves, not just what I would call a most updated and available map of forest reserves, but also previous, past maps of forest reserves that will then allow us to compare the changes in forest reserves physically, I guess, on the map. So to look at the maps, you just come again on the landing page, just can click on Map Explore, and that will bring us to this interface, where then now instead of showing you the data on changes to forest reserve, it just shows you the maps, right? These are all polygons, and on the right here you can see the layers. So if we remove all the layers, then we just have the background layer, and so say we want to look at forest reserves based on a map that I deduced was published around 2022. You just click on it and then it shows. So you say you compare this layer to say forest reserves in 2008 2012. You just click both, and then you can see the changes in both, right? So it matters which one you stack on top because the colors will blend, so you just have to play with it. So from here you could tell that in 2008 2012 in Kelantan, Gunung Rabong Forest Reserve was much bigger, but in 2022 this part has already been removed based on the maps. Okay, based on the maps. Of course, then you can cross-check this with the tables that we looked at just now, right? And there's also satellite maps here that we can click on, right? If you click on the satellite maps, then you can click on here. This is a satellite map from Mapbox. So I can't tell you when this image was taken. Okay, so that's one of those caveats to be aware of. And for a caveat, you can just click on this layer information here, and it will show you some of explain the data set for the layers and also the caveats that you should be aware of. there is a national atlas for Peninsular Malaysia that I found in the Harvard Mapping Library, and I've digitized it. So this was published in 1977, right? And so this is the original map that I have scanned and I put into as a raster here. But if you want to look at the digitized polygons of the forest reserves from 1977, you can click on this one, the last layer here, and it will show. So these were the forest reserves that were published in that map from 1977, you can see, right? Of course, if you compare it to now, you can see there are huge changes. What was is now no longer, and what wasn't has also, there's addition to it. Okay, so this is how you can explore the maps of forest reserves. You can also find yourself, if you have your location permission enabled on your computer or on your mobile device, you can just click here and it will center the map on your exact location. So you can then use it to tell, is this area next to me likely to be a forest reserve based on the maps that I have, scanned and digitized here. So of course the maps are not very updated. And that's one of the main caveats and gaps in the platform. But still, it is a very useful resource, I would say. At least it is free and publicly available for anyone to use right now. All right, so we have looked at the tables of changes to forest reserves, and we have looked at maps that we can explore of forest reserves. So what other goodies can we find, or can you find on Fate of Our Forest? If you want to know how I put all of this together, right? The platform, the data set, how I analyze it, how I clean it, and knowing that will also help you better understand how to use the data or how not to use the data. Then you want to come to this part, this button here, learn more. You click on it and then you go to methodology. And in here, I wrote in details, each data set, how I worked on it, how I worked with it, etc., etc. And you can always download all the data sets that I have put up on this platform. So that's one. And if you are looking for stories to write, investigation angles, or just puzzles that you wish to solve, then you can click on puzzles, the puzzles section. I just written a few. There are like a zillion. Every time I look at a specific part of a state, looking at the maps, looking at the forest reserve changes, I find puzzles. Puzzles means discrepancies, like, it doesn't add up. The numbers don't add up, the changes don't add up, and I'll call them puzzles. You can call it whatever you want. So I've listed just a few here. I'll probably work on them myself eventually, but you're more than welcome to start working on it on your own. And then I hopefully you'll keep me updated and we can work on it together. This is one of the ways that you can contribute to a democrat that you can this is one of the ways that you can contribute to making public data more useful, more relevant, and hopefully it will also, I guess, encourage the authorities to make such data far more available and easily accessible to us. And then, I don't have to go through all this trouble to make it available to you. Anyway, so here are some puzzles for anyone interested to solve. And if you wish to stay updated on, when I publish a new data set, get, updates, then you can just come to this button here, stay updated, fill in the form, and I will send you notifications when I make updates that are relevant to your interest. And if you have questions or comments, you can click on this feedback question button here, and I hope you have plenty of comments and questions from me, feedback on how to improve the platform, or how you want to help me with the platform, or we can work together, on forest data, etc., etc. Yeah, just click on this form and then fill it in, and I promise I'll get back to you. I'll definitely get back to you. All right, now we are in the second and final section of this video where we explore Fate of Our Forest, the platform. And in this section, we are going to look at the actual data set that makes up the backbone of this platform, right? So how do I know when state governments make changes to the forest reserves? Well, I know because I read the announcements that the state governments make about those decisions. This announcement is a legally binding official government document called a Gazette, or Warta in Bahasa Malaysia. Now, state governments have all the authority to add or remove or to change the classification of forest reserves in their states. But that power, that authority is given by the law, and the law requires the state governments to publish their decisions in this document called a Gazette. So if we read the Gazettes, then we get the most accurate and ultimately legally binding document on that decision. So I would argue that it is a far more reliable and accurate information on the forest reserves compared to what state governments or officials might say in public. So what I have done is to find and compile and read all the gazettes related to changes in forest reserves from 2002 to date, up to today. Today is like June 2026. And I have read them and I've analyzed them and I've compiled the information into a table, right? So let's have a look at a gazette. So here is a gazette, and this one happens to be one from Pahang, published 21st May 2026. This is the gazette number, and the gazettes always come in Malay and also in English. So if we take a closer look at this one, it basically says that the Pahang government, with approval by the state authority, has excised, which means that it has removed the land, this word here, excise, remove a land of about 1,358 hectares from which forest reserve? From the Lentang Forest Reserve, Lentang Additional Forest Reserve, right? And this is it, right? And well, also it happens that this forest reserve used to be a water catchment forest. Nope, no longer. It has now been removed from the classification. And it also, in this same Gazette notification, there is another document that it mentions, a Gazette plan with the number PW5555. So this is an important piece of information because although I have compiled to date, about 950 gazettes that tells me when the changes take effect, what the changes were, which forest reserves were affected, and the Mukim and the district where it happened, but I do not know the exact location of the 1,358. Where was it removed? Was it in one piece or several parcels that add up to be 1,358 hectares? I don't actually know because it is not stated in this gazette. This is the gazette itself. There's no more information on this. This is the gazette. There's no map here. If you want to download the Gazette itself, not just a table of the dataset, but you want to download the actual Gazette itself, you're more than welcome to do so. All you need to do is come to the main page here, click on Learn More, go to Methodology, and here right at the top, I tell you that all the information you can get it from my GitHub repository. You just click on it, you bring it to my GitHub. This is all the information that you can find on the platform, it's all here on this public GitHub. So you just need to, you don't need to have a GitHub account, it's public. You just need to come up to this top right code here, click on the pull down, and then download the entire thing in a zip file. Then you just unzip it and you have all the information. But of course, every time I update it, then you have to go download it again. If you're familiar with GitHub, I'm sure you know of other ways to download it. The biggest gap in my platform on the Fate of Forest that we cannot tell the exact location where the changes were made, whether the forest reserves were added or removed. To get that information, we'll have to look at the Gazette plan. But to get that Gazette plan, we would have to request it from the state government offices, then pay for it, and then you get a hard copy, and then you will have to digitize, you have to scan that hard copy, then you have to georeference it, digitize it, and then you know exactly where the changes were made, right? Then you can analyze it on the computer. Now I know how to do all of that, but I haven't done it yet. Why? Because I did not have the resources to do it. I did not yet have the time or the money to do all of that. And also, I don't want to do it alone. I wanted to do it with you, with somebody who, who is passionate about this and who is, eager to, work on this with me. So if you are that person, please reach out to me using the contact form, right? You can find my email quite easily, or use the contact form on Fate of Our Forest and contact me, and then hopefully we can work something out together. So that's it. I wanted this introduction to Fate of Our Forest to be short, but I think, this being the first video I'm making of this kind, it is not that short. So thank you for your patience and staying till the end. Yeah, I look forward to hearing from you, how you use the platform, what you think about it, what you think can be improved. There are like many things I think that can be improved, and already some of my friends, my colleagues have given me very, very useful feedback. But I would like to hear from more people before I decide, which changes to make. Right. So yeah, that's it from me, Yahua, and hope to hear from you soon. Thank you.